backwards. So we're here to evolve the quality of our consciousness. Okay, the consciousness system is a real system, and it's evolving. It doesn't want to de-evolve. Maybe I should start there and kind of work up to where we are now, and then a lot of questions will be answered. They'll fall out. All right, so let's start at the beginning, and there's two strands here that I want to do together. One of them is think of a system, and that is an information system. Okay, just general words, just an information system. And let's say in this information system, all the bits are random. Okay, no information. Random bits defines no information. So if this information system is actually going to evolve, it has to order some of those bits. So it orders those bits in a particular way, and the ordering isn't so important as it is that once it has an order that is of certain form, it can then make that stand for a number or a letter or something else. A buffalo. It can make here's this ordering, and I will give it a meaning. Okay, so it can do that. Now, as soon as it does that, it orders those bits. It now has information. Okay, so what an information system does is it evolves, becomes greater, evolves by lowering its entropy. Ordering things lowers entropy. Okay? Entropy is a measure of disorder. So all the bits random is the highest entropy that system can have. Order things, that entropy goes down a little bit. Okay, that's how that works. So if you have an aware information system, now this information system is conscious. It's aware, and it knows it has to order bits. That is its path of evolution. If it takes the bits and pulls them apart, now it's back to all random, and it's dead. It's not an information system anymore. So it wants to evolve by creating more information. Those bits that are defined to be a particular way, that's information. So it wants to create information. So the purpose of this aware information system is to lower its entropy. So that's one thing that we have to understand. Now, let's look at consciousness. A lot of people say, hey, nobody knows what consciousness is. Consciousness is easy to define. It's an awareness with a choice. It's just that simple. It's awareness with a choice. Awareness of what's out there, what's in here, both self and of outside, of other. That's awareness. Okay, now, what does awareness have? How does it do that? How does it know what's in here and out there? It has to get data. So it goes out and gets data. Now, for us, that data comes through 5 senses. We hear it, we see it, we feel it, we smell it, we taste it. That's it. We got 5 senses. So our awareness has information. It gets, oh, this is an apple, this is a chair, and it learns to deal with that information. The second thing it has to have is it has to have memory. Okay, if you don't have memory, everything you notice is the first thing you've ever noticed. So to build something, to evolve, you have to have memory. Okay, you also have to have some processing. You have to be able to look at those things in that memory and say, well, what do they mean? What's the connection? What does this tell me? You have to make some kind of sense out of it to help you find your purpose, which is more order, lower entropy. Okay, so now we take the simplest form of consciousness. Simplest form of consciousness is, remember, conscious awareness, and awareness has memory, it has processing, it has a purpose, lower its entropy. So that would be just a piece of aware consciousness that could be in state A or state B. That's it. It's binary. That's simple. It's the simplest state we can think of. So we can say, oh, I'm aware, and I'm aware that I'm in state A. All right, that's an awareness. And I can change that to state B. I've got 2 different states I can be in, a simple binary. And I can remember that. And now I can change it. Now I can change it again. And now I went from a 0 to a 1 to a 0 to a 1 to a 1, and I can remember that. Okay, so it can evolve by creating patterns. That 1, that 0, 1, 1, 0, that's a pattern. So it can make patterns, and it can work with those patterns and evolve by making patterns of patterns, and so on. And now it can take just one, well, let me put it this way. So there's 2 ways to proceed here, and it doesn't matter which way. They all end up at the exact same place. And that is, all the patterns of patterns created are in the memory of this cell. So it's just its memory. Or you can say, if you follow the biological model, that it duplicates itself. Like another virtual machine. It duplicates itself. So now you have 2 of these. And this one's in a 1, and this one's in a 0, and another. So you can do that. So one of them follows like our evolution here, biology. We started with single-cell amoebas, and then they split, and you had multiple cell things, and then you had things that specialized, like in organs, and then you had things like us that had lots of different organs and specialized stuff. And we have I've heard us described as a cooperative organization of about 4 trillion, bacteria, or 4 trillion single-celled things that are all cooperating and working together. So complexity builds. Okay, so we can do that. Complexity can build with numbers of things, or it can build just in memory of things. But either one will take you to the same place. All right, so let's say this thing is growing. Okay. It's lowering its entropy. And it'll get to a point where it's done all the patterns that it can think to do, and it kind of stalls out, kind of hits a plateau. All right, then it can take one of its little cells and just oscillate it from 0 to 1 to 0 to 1 to 0 to 1. It just invented a metronome. Now it can use that one, just sitting there going 0 to 1, to create regular time. And now it can have sequences of patterns of sequences. It can more complexity, what that does, and that's when regular time was invented. It's a technology that consciousness creates. So then we have it growing. It's more and more order. And of course it's learning as it goes, because arithmetic is a natural for this thing, right? I've got 1 thing, I've got 2 things, I've got another 2 things, I've got 4 things, that's just natural. So it's going to explore that. It's going to get good at math and so on, just kind of naturally. So it's growing. It gets to a point where it's stalled out again. It hits another plateau. It's this one big monolithic consciousness now that has thought of just about everything that it can think of. It's because it's just one thing, and it realizes that in order to grow further, I need to break off pieces of myself and give them independent free will. And now, we hadn't discussed free will up to this time, but our little unit that I started with, that simple thing, it was binary, had to have free will. It had to be able to choose between a or a B, or a 1 or a 0. So free will was that it could freely choose which one to bring up. So anyway, so it realizes that it has to do this. Well, our cells, basically did the same kind of thing. They had to split, and each one was an independent cell that now had to cooperate. So it said, I need to split. So it did. It created a bunch of virtual machines. That's what we are. We're one of those virtual machines. That got it off of its plateau, because now these virtual machines have their own free will, and the source can say, all right, everybody line up. Here's what we're going to do next. And they can go, don't feel like it, boss. I'm going fishing. They can do their own thing. Now you have a bunch of different perspectives on things, a bunch of different attitudes, and the various pieces didn't all go through the same didn't all go through the same process. They all have their own processes, making their own choices in their own way. So now you're getting a much richer set of possibilities that you had when it was one monolithic thing. All right, now this whole set now, this whole thing is growing up with its subset pieces, is what I'm calling the larger consciousness system. And the first virtual reality, and a virtual reality is simply a rule set. It says, here's the rules. Everybody that obeys these rules, then they're part of this reality because they can share things. The first virtual reality was protocols for language, for talking. So the system creates that. All these subpieces can communicate with each other. They have syntax. They have definition. So they can talk. So now you've got this big chat room. It's a good metaphor. And all these subsets and the main parent, is still there. And they have this communication. Well, that creates a lot more opportunities for growth. But that also stalls out because the way the system works is its whole point is to lower its entropy. And the possibilities that all of these things interacting with each other creates a lot of possibilities, but the possibilities aren't all that interesting. After a while, what do you do with 100,000 things in a big chat room? It kind of loses its novelty in a sense. So the system thinks, I need a different virtual reality. I need one in which the choices are more, you can learn from them better by lowering your entropy. You can learn from them better because the choices are meaningful. The choices are important. And so it decided it would create the second virtual reality. And to do that, it starts with a set of initial conditions and a rule set. That set of initial conditions is this really tight, tiny little ball of plasma under extremely high pressure, extremely high temperature. And the rule set is basically what we call science, physics, chemistry, biology. That's the rule set. So it comes up with this rule set, it hits the run button, and that ball of plasma expands. And there's gravity that's slowing it down, but it's expanding under the force, and things cool, and you create suns, and you've been through that Big Bang thing. But this is the same thing, except it's a big digital bang. It's just happening in a computer because the system needs a virtual reality. It doesn't want to program one because that comes out being stilted and dysfunctional. There's always going to be quirks that just got programmed in. It's not going to be really always self-consistent. So the only way to make it self-consistent is to let it evolve. So now you have the big digital bang. And it starts out, gets just a short way, and craps out, explodes, goes to hell.